This is Archon, a two-player abstract strategy board game. It is played on a 12 by 12 square checkerboard. Each player starts the game with 28 game pieces on the board. The player that goes first plays with the white pieces. The other player plays with the black pieces. This is the board. A diamond is used to help easily identify the center. The files are labeled with letters A through L, and the ranks are numbered 1 through 12. Numbers 10, 11, and 12 are represented by the letters X, Y, and Z to keep them single characters. The board is divided into 3 separate zones. The middle 4 ranks are the neutral zone. The 4 ranks closest to each player are that player's zone. The ultimate objective of the game is to eliminate the opponent's sovereign while protecting your own. Players take alternating turns. During a turn, a player takes exactly 1 action. There are 4 different actions: traveling, attacking, revival, and succession. Traveling is moving a piece to an unoccupied square. Attacking is moving a piece to a square occupied by an enemy piece. Whenever a piece attacks, the piece receiving the attack is removed from the board. A piece that can be attacked on the opponent's next turn is considered under threat. In this presentation, circles are used to indicate a piece can travel to a square. X's are used to indicate a piece can attack to a square. Diamonds are used to indicate a piece affects a square with an ability. These symbols will overlap where appropriate. Moving a piece is a general term that includes traveling and attacking. An octagonal null sign is used to indicate a piece cannot move to a square. A skull is used to indicate regicide, the death of a sovereign. There are 9 different pieces: sovereign, champion, zealot, guardian, scion, vassal, artillery, lord, and militia. This is a demonstration board that is used in this presentation to show how the various pieces move. The sovereign can move 1 square in any orthogonal or diagonal direction. The sovereign is zone-bound. This means it cannot enter the enemy zone. The champion can move any number of unoccupied squares in any orthogonal or diagonal direction. The zealot can move any number of unoccupied squares in any diagonal direction. Because of how the zealot moves, it is color-bound. This means it cannot move to squares of a different color. The guardian can move 1 square in any orthogonal direction. The squares diagonally adjacent to the guardian are treated by the opponent as if they're occupied by the player's pieces. Like the sovereign, the guardian is zone-bound. Here is an example of the blocking power of the guardian. The sovereign is not under threat because the guardian is blocking the champion's attack. The scion can move 1 square in any diagonal direction or 2 squares in any orthogonal direction. Like the sovereign and guardian, the scion is zone-bound. Because of how the scion moves, it is also color-bound. When moving orthogonally, the scion can jump over enemy pieces. If a scion jumps over an enemy piece, that piece is considered attacked and is removed from play. Scions cannot jump over friendly pieces. The vassal can move 2 squares in any orthogonal direction, then 1 square at a right angle. Also, the vassal can travel 4 squares in any orthogonal direction, then 2 squares at a right angle. The vassal can jump over friendly and enemy pieces. The artillery can move any even number of unoccupied squares in any orthogonal or diagonal direction. Because of how the artillery moves, it is double color-bound. This means it cannot move to squares of a different color, and it cannot move to half the squares of the same color. A requirement for an artillery to attack is there must be one piece in between it and the piece it's attacking. In this example, the artillery is threatening both of the enemy vassals. Here, the artillery is threatening the sovereign in front of it. The artillery cannot attack the zealot. This is because artillery do not take the guardian's blocking ability into account when they attack. The zealot, however, is clear to attack the artillery. The lord can move any number of unoccupied squares in any orthogonal direction. The militia has different movement powers based on what rank it's on. While not in the enemy zone, militia attack diagonally forwards 1 square and travel orthogonally forwards 1 square. If a militia is in its player zone, it can travel up to 2 unoccupied squares orthogonally forward. In addition, if a militia is on its starting square in the 3rd rank, it can travel up to 3 unoccupied squares orthogonally forward. When in the enemy zone, the militia moves the same as the sovereign, 1 square in any orthogonal or diagonal direction. Militia in the neutral zone have the effect of blocking enemy militia. Militia cannot travel through a square an enemy militia in the neutral zone can attack. They may only travel up to the square itself. If a militia is already in such a square, it can travel forwards normally. This includes traveling 2 squares if the militia is still in the player zone. Sovereigns, zealots, and guardians are considered holy pieces. A player may use their turn to bring back one of their removed pieces to the board. This is called revival. Pieces that can be revived require the player to control a minimum number of holy pieces in the neutral zone that are not under threat. If such conditions are met, a piece can be placed on the board adjacent to a friendly holy piece. When reviving a Scion, it must be placed adjacent to the player's sovereign. Here are the different pieces and their revive costs. Each piece that can be revived is on the rank that is also its revive cost. Militia cannot be revived, and sovereigns are protected by succession. Sovereigns and scions are considered royal pieces. Eliminating the royal pieces of the opponent is the object of the game. If a player's sovereign is under threat and cannot escape, this is called regicide. If the player receiving regicide has no scions, or has scions that are under threat, the game ends with a loss for that player. Succession is similar to attacking in that a piece is moved to an occupied square. However, the square is occupied by a friendly piece. The location of the 2 pieces relative to each other is irrelevant. If succession would occur, but the crown scion is exposed to attack, the other scion is used for succession if possible. You now have the basics you need to play this game. Please stop here if you want to jump in, or keep watching for more advanced rules and information about special situations. Whenever the sovereign is under threat, this is called being in peril. A player cannot take an action that would put their sovereign under threat. This includes moving the sovereign into an attack path, moving a piece that's presently blocking an attack path, moving a guardian that's presently blocking an attack path with its ability, moving a piece into the attack path of an artillery to permit its attack, or reviving a piece into the attack path of an artillery to permit its attack. There are a few ways to escape peril. First, the sovereign can be moved out of the path of the attack. Second, the piece threatening the sovereign can be attacked. Third, a piece can be moved to block the attack path. This works with champions, lords, zealots, and artillery. Regarding the artillery, a piece can be moved to break its attack path. Finally, a Guardian can be moved to block the attack path with its ability. If a player does not have a legal move available to them but their sovereign is not under threat, that player loses the game. There are no game draws from stalemates. In this example, Black has lost because there's no legal move available. If nothing occurs for 100 turns that advances the game state, the game ends in a draw. Pieces that are zone bound cannot be placed in the enemy zone when being revived. Guardians, because they're zone bound, cannot affect the enemy zone, including with their blocking ability. In this example, the Sovereign is under threat because the Guardian is not positioned to block the attack. Pieces that are colorbound or double colorbound must be placed so they do not overlap with other friendly pieces of the same type. Even though Scions are royal pieces, they are not restricted to pure safety as Sovereigns are. This means they can move into an attack path, or be exposed to one. Scions cannot threaten pieces if they cannot jump over them. This includes if the square on the other side does not exist, is in the enemy zone, or is occupied by a friendly piece. In the event Regicide occurs, and the player has two Scions that are safe, the one on the player's color of squares used for Succession. This is one of the reasons the Scion is colorbound. The Scion that is on its square color is known as the Crown Scion. In this example, Black is receiving Regicide, and a new monarch must be crowned. The Scion on J10 is on a dark-colored square, so it ascends to the throne. In this mirror example, White is receiving Regicide. The Scion on K4 is on a light-colored square, so it becomes the new sovereign. Due to the Scion's ability to jump over an enemy piece and eliminate it while it's attacking, the Scion has the unique ability to attack two pieces in a single turn. Succession consumes the player's turn, so it doesn't always prevent a loss for the player. Because of their zone-bound nature, a sovereign can threaten the other sovereign. In this example, the white sovereign is threatening the black sovereign. Here is an example of a win for black. The white sovereign is under threat from the black sovereign, and cannot move backwards due to black's lord. Also, the lord is threatening both white scions, so they're not available for succession. Here is an example of a scion attacking two pieces and allowing the artillery behind it to threaten the enemy sovereign. Guardians can work together to significantly block a file or rank. In this example, the white champion would have to move 4 times before it can offer a threat to the enemy sovereign along the 8th rank. If a champion were to go on the offensive and try to attack the Guardians, it would expose itself to attack. Here are images of the pieces from Blender that are colored appropriately. At the bottom of color-bound pieces, there are holes to indicate what percentage of squares they can access. Zealots and Scions have 50% access, and Artillery have 25% access. On zone-bound pieces, there is an octagonal theme along the middle and top of the piece. This is because they can access 8 ranks of the board. Pieces that can be revived have rings at the bottom of their midsection that indicate their revive cost. Pieces that are royal have purple crowns at the top of the piece. Pieces that are holy have golden discs at the top of the piece. Diagonal lines of squares are labeled on the board. Lines that have a positive slope are called ascents. The first ascent touches the first rank and the 11th ascent goes through the center of the board. Each row connects with its same number ascent along file K. Lines that have a negative slope are called descents. Like the ascents, the first descent touches the first rank and the 11th descent goes through the center of the board. Each row connects with its same number descent along file B. Here is the board with ascent and descent indicators on the sides of the board. Here is an example of using this language to communicate the game state. The champion is threatening the sovereign along the 9th descent. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feedback, or are interested in playing this game in person or through Tabletop Simulator, please contact me. My information is in the video description. Thank you again.